Hello! Benvingudes, benvinguts. Welcome all back to the online series Fixing the Future Education Edition. To talk with the worldwide leaders who are transforming the future of education for good. Today, the Atlas of the Future will bring you to Ahmedabad in Western India to meet the energetic founder of a small and multi-awarded school. And to discover that, yes, we can reinvent the way we teach our children. Kiran Bir Sethi is the founder of the Riverside School, and tonight she will be in a conversation with Eduard, Vallory, who you already met in last week's session. Do you want to know how she turned from a designer into an educator? Or how did she actually manage to set up one of the best schools of India? Well, ask her using the chat box. And as you know, Eduard will take care to transmit your questions to her. But let's start now. Welcome again, Eduard.
Hello. Hello, everybody. It is a great pleasure to introduce to Kiran Sethi to this Atlas for the Future session. Kiran is the founder and director of the Riverside School in Ahmedabad in India. And she's not a person that comes directly from the world of education. She has a design background and received her diploma in visual communication at the National Institute of Design. But precisely this perspective of design took her in a different approach to education. She had been the founder of an initiative called Approach, which stands for A Protagonist in Every Child, that attempts to make Ahmedabad more child-friendly, for which she became an Ashoka Fellow in 2008. Based on extensive research, Kiran has developed a design for change curriculum for middle school students that leads them to understand empathetically rather than just intellectually, and puts academic learning into a real-world context. From this, it was created in 2009 the Design for Change School Challenge, which has since spread to over 35 countries, challenging children to design and implement solutions to problems they see around them. Kiran and her initiatives have received many relevant international awards, and we are really privileged to have her here with us. So welcome, Kiran. We know that it's quite late there in India, so thank you for being with us at that time.
Thank you so much, Eduard. Just one correction. Design for Change is today in over 60 countries.
You see, I'm not even updated. I'm not even updated. No, the growth of your initiatives are just amazing. And the ones, I know several people that have been in some of them, and all of them are very impressed. And we would like to learn a little bit of that. But because we are gonna work in like having a 20 minutes conversation and then jump to the questions, I would like to start on everybody that is doing some kind of leadership in education has some personal background that created this particular kind of mindset. And I guess that you might combine your experience of being a kid and your experience of being a mother, that they have been relevant of your ideas on how education should be. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I did not come from education, as you know. And so I had started my design studio. I was having such a great time, doing my work. And then I became a mother and my whole life changed. And I think, and I keep saying this, that, as a mother, I think I reacted to my son's experience. I said, my God, how are children, being told that they cannot? And I think that experience of seeing so intimately the kind of way education removes identity and stories from our children's lives. We love to reward compliance. We love letting our children say, you have to be good children. That means good children do not speak, they only sit and listen. And I think for me, that was just not good enough. So I think as a mother, my reaction was of dismay and frustration. But then I like to say that as a designer, I responded to the opportunity. I said, wow, I think there can be a different way. There has to be something better, right? And I think that's what prompted me to say I was not going to change education. I was only going to change my child's life. So I took the piece that I could solve and set out to learn from the child. So I think it was a big blessing, and I say this with humility. It was a blessing that I did not come from education. So I could ask the question. I could say, why not? Who said? So I didn't have any rules. And so because I was not playing with any rules, I could question the status quo. And I could start by listening to the child and having the child become the co-designer and the co-facilitator and the user in the journey. So I am deeply grateful to learning from the children. And then that's really how Riverside started.
That's great, and it made me think on my background in guiding and scouting, the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and something that the founder of the movement had this motto that was "Ask the boy, ask the girl." The idea that you always have it when you take Montessori, Dewey, and this idea that kids, boys and girls, are not just empty recipients, but are like fantastic creators of new ways to see the world, make also ask to a person that is devoted to education like you are, of what do children need from adults?
I think I want to expand a little bit first on what you said about this this understanding of children. I think, and I've seen this across the world, that there are typically three filters by which we look at young children, especially young children. We look at age and we say, "Oh, you're too young now." Not now, later. Now you're just 3 years, you're just 4 years. The second filter we look at, Archon, is with gender. And many parts of the world, gender plays a big role of who can and who cannot. Or you're a girl, then you have to behave like this way. If you're a boy, you can do this. And I think the third is demographics. It's where you're born. And we keep thinking, oh, if you're born in an underserved community, then, okay, this much is enough for you. So we diminish a child's potential and full authentic self by these three filters. And when you remove these, and exactly what you said, we look at children as whole people. They have opinions and they have stories and they have a way that they want to tell the world that I'm here, look at me. I keep saying that a child in the first 2 years of their life tell us, look at me. They go from crawling to sitting to standing to laughing to running, speaking, and they say, look at me, Mama, I'm here. And then what do? We send them to school and we tell them, no, now sit down. Now you keep quiet. And we say this for 15 years, not for 1 day or 1 month. We tell them for 15 years that you must sit down and you must listen to what we have to tell you. And you will do that, and then you'll get good marks, and very good. And then we wonder what happens to our children, right? So I think children were telling us very simply that, listen to me, I'm here. And I want to be a participant, and I want to be an initiator, and I want to be an overseer of change. I just don't want to be an observer. So when we started listening to children and having them walk with us on the journey, it just becomes such a more enriched journey. So one thing they were saying, listen to us. The other thing they were telling us is also that I am so many things. I am not just a mark. I am not markable, I am remarkable. So I can be a son, I can be a daughter, I can be an ornithologist, I can be a friend, I can be so many things. So listen to me. And I think what it was asking us to be was those kind of role models in front of our children. I keep telling so many leaders in schools when I go to, we tell our children to be brave. We tell them to be powerful. And then the first time the bell rings in the school, we run off into a staff room or into the principal's cabin and we close the doors, right? And I think that's the other part I keep saying. What an opportunity for us to engage with children and tell them that we are role models worth imitating. Because a lot of our children are looking at us and saying, how do you behave? How do you understand the world? How do you understand inclusiveness? How do you understand kindness? They're seeing us as adults live out that. So while we're teaching them physics and math and language, our body is a curriculum. The way we smile, the way we listen, the way we hug somebody, all of that is also a curriculum. And I think it's a very powerful opportunity for us. So our children are telling us, I'm watching you, I'm looking at you, and I'm learning what you're not teaching me. So I think that was a beautiful lesson they were teaching. And we learned from them for Riverside as well.
Kiran, when I listen to you, I think that the way that one imagines school and the time of their life that kids spend in school is somehow related to the way we don't think about our own lives and about the time of our lives, which is a time limit, right? The time that we spend understanding ourselves, making us grow, transforming us into the self that we like more than we are now.
Yes.
Creating the environment that makes us live with the others in more harmony. Do you think that this is quite absent in general? This double element, it's absent of the school because it's absent from most of our lives as adults?
I think you're asking a very important question. You're saying that, because people keep saying, is school a preparation for life or is school life, right? And I think this distinction or this boundary we put between school and life is where the problem is. There is not a school and then there is life, right? It is a natural extension, and that we have to remove these borders and these boundaries. And it comes, like you said, by virtue of engaging with real issues, with real people, with real problems. And most schools think, no. When you graduate, you will get into life. And we find that so many children are unprepared for that because they're unprepared for the complexity, they're unprepared for uncertainty, they're unprepared for rejection, all of these, which is what life will give you. So as we grow and we start engaging with life, we are learning more about ourselves. We're learning, how do we respond? What are our mindsets? What are our belief systems? What do we believe about people? Do we believe people are kind? Then we will deal with them with kindness. But if we believe everybody's an adversary, oh, be careful, this person is not good, that person is not good, then we're going to respond to life like that. So I remember one very interesting anecdote. Somebody told me that Einstein was asked a question. Said, if you had one question to ask the universe, what would you say? And he said, I want to ask, is the universe a friendly place? And it's so staggeringly important, because then if we believe that the universe is a friendly place, all our actions and our creations and our innovations and our designs are going to be towards a kinder, compassionate place. But in case we believe, no, the world is an angry, violent, distrustful place, everything we do will be towards shielding us. It'll be to say, no, stop. And I think our children have to believe that the world is welcoming them, and it's a friend, and it has optimism, and it's going to give them opportunities. I don't think we do a very good job of that. I think you're right, we get the fears of the world into our children, and then we ask them to be fearful of the world. And then that's why I believe there's a massive crisis of compassion in the world we are living in today. Everybody is the other. Whether you're a girl, you're the other. Whether you're a certain religion, you're the other. Whether you're a certain color, you're the other. And we keep thinking the world will become safer for our children. No, it's not. So we have to start believing and changing. I think the greatest education is that. It's not your math, science, and English. That you're going to learn, even without a teacher. I think our online and COVID has given us that confidence that you can learn your math, science, and English, online. But to learn about yourself and each other, you need this interaction. And I think I am hopeful that when we come back, or whatever that back is, or when we go forward, the time we spend, like you said, time, because we keep thinking, oh, I don't have time. I think that our time will be spent more wisely planting the seeds of empathy and ethics and excellence in our children's hearts and our minds. I think it's going to be, if we don't do that, then we've not learned anything from COVID. I have to say.
No, and somehow what I find fascinating of an initiative like Riverside, the school that you created in 2001, is precisely how to build in this institution called school a place that put emphasis on imagination, on choice, on emotional well-being, on community. This idea that kids are full protagonists, they become the community. How was the experience of creating Riverside, and how this 20 years of experience had been?
But at first I want to respond, but how and where I felt, unless you don't experience what can be, you're more likely to do whatever is. And that's why a lot of our education, our teachers, our parenting is out of what was, not what can be. And I keep saying that my education in design, and especially my design institute, it just gave me that experience that I felt alive. And I kept thinking, oh my God, at 17, I'm experiencing this. I wish I could have experienced this when I was 7. So I think now in hindsight that a lot of that I built into Riverside. Of course, being a designer, the user-centered approach was given. I mean, I was speaking, my children were becoming co-designers. But I think even the experience of choice and voice, about agency, about collaboration, about creativity was something that I pulled from my design college and I put it into Riverside. And I started seeing the amazing confidence and creative confidence our children were exhibiting. So I feel that in the 20 years, that has not changed, that we will always co-create with our children. That has not changed. I think what has changed is, of course, we have grown. We have got more moral responsibility because now the Riverside has become a place that is influencing the conversation of education in the landscape around the world now. But it was a nice, slow process. I think I keep advising people who are starting school, don't rush it. You have to take it slow. So I had the luxury of building the school 1 year at a time. And that means the children learned with us, we learned with them. I had a small team, then we added few people into the group. So we started learning and enjoying the process. I don't think most people enjoy the process as if you're rushing, and if you are doing trying to speed up the change. So I think we had the luxury of taking it slow and growing it 1 year at a time. So I think looking back 20 years, I keep saying, my God, where did it go? I still feel like going to school. I still feel like, learning more. So it's been a very enjoyable and deeply meaningful experience. And Edward, I didn't start by saying, oh, I'll start approach or we'll start design for change. No, we were just running the school, and when the opportunity came, we said, oh, how interesting, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do this. So it was not a plan, it was an opportunity, and we responded, and I think that was lovely.
There is this debate in the world of the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and maths world, to introduce arts, because arts
STEAM.
are precisely the ones that give creativity and openness to imagination and not just reproduction. No? Somehow what you're saying is that your experience with design and everything that is related with this creativity or imagining things that doesn't exist is what opens the opportunity to create something.
For creativity.
Exactly. And co-creativity means that it's not only that you create, it's that you make the learning happen by creating together with the kids in that case.
Because I keep saying, some people keep asking me, uncertainty, uncertainty. Children don't know that word uncertainty. They only know exploration and curiosity. There is no word uncertainty. And there is no word failure. It's iteration and prototyping. If we don't give place for this, and if we don't give time for this, and then you have this one size fits all, and all of that we are fighting against for children. So I think what we and I think it's the mindset of time. Oh, I don't have time. I have to teach you math. I have to teach you English. I have to teach you physics. But if the time is spent on opening up opportunities for children, they will anyway learn that. So I think it's to offer what can be, not what is. That's really, for me, the heart of creativity into creation. Again, creativity by itself is great, but if you put creativity into creation for the greater good, that's beautiful.
And I've heard you in several places, always learning from the insights, and you used a lot the yes you can much before Obama.
Yes.
The idea that the world matters. So all these things I understand are in the core approach of the human curriculum at Riverside. Could you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, how do you organize everything around this idea that you are in the center, you are able to do everything that you think, and the world around you matters, and you could be an agent for change?
Well, I think it comes down to why you exist. I mean, I keep saying every organization, every school, every family has a certain set of core values, right? And or I would say a belief system that binds people together. It's shared. It's a collective sort of vision or a journey. At Riverside, I think it was very early on, right at the beginning, it was co-creation, that you matter and your voice will drive. It's like the engine. Your voice is the fuel that will drive the engine, right? So when we were absolutely sure about that, I think we became clearer and clearer. I have to say that when I started the school, I wasn't very sure that this is what we were existing for. All I knew that voice had to matter. I think over time, it became clearer that, my God, what an opportunity to have this time with children for 15 years and build humane citizens, not just human, because I don't think as a human species, we're doing a very good job on the planet. I have to say that. But humane are choices. And I keep saying that the spelling of human and humane is the E, and that E is where the magic formula is. It's empathy. The first E is empathy, about understanding yourself and the impact you have on others. We don't teach that otherwise. I mean, we make it like a, by chance. I'm saying by design we can become humane. The second is ethics. How do we choose what to do, what is right over what is easy? It's very easy to sit in the class, keep quiet, get everybody to learn mathematics and have a test. Very easy. But to do what is right is that every child has an opinion, has a voice. It's very difficult to manage, but that's what's right.
It seems that we had some technical problem. Just in the middle where you were explaining this concept of humane, and you were humane, sorry for the pronunciation, and you said that the E was for empathy, and then you developed this idea of the curriculum.
Yes. So I was just saying it's like 5 seeds. Now, if just supposing you were planting seeds in the heart and the mind of children, 5 seeds everybody is given. The first seed is empathy. Okay, you plant the seed of empathy and children understand about themselves and their impact on others. The second E you plant is ethics, getting children to understand what is right over what is easy. The third E is excellence. It's not about passing and failing, it is about refinement, prototyping, and the feedback. The fourth E is elevation, abundance, celebrating each other and recognizing it's not about competition, but about collaboration. And the fifth E is evolution, that you're always growing and you're learning from yesterday. So I think if these 5 E's become your core foundation of your curriculum, everything else you can build on it. So it's like, I keep saying it's the foundation of the Burj Khalifa. I mean, you have to have a really strong foundation to build that building. Otherwise, it's going to fall. So over the time, I think Riverside realized that if we make this the curriculum, everything else is just, the building blocks. So I think that's really became the humane curriculum at Riverside.
Let me just ask you to make a zoom on the gender issue. All over the world, at all levels, professional, sport, citizen life, everywhere you have situations of discrimination for gender, even aggression, violence. And on this, India has not been an exception, sadly. And I think that your approach is an approach that is empowering, but I believe that there is also this idea of empowerment that is not only the empowerment of girls, is to learn to live together in the whole sense. How is your view, not just of the Riverside, your view on what's the role education should play on that?
I have to just tell you that when I was growing up, I am the youngest of 3 children. I have my older sister, my brother, and myself. I have to tell you, my father and mother never brought gender into the understanding of learning. I never knew that I could or could not do something, or my brother could or could not sing. So gender never played a role. Competency did. I had to be good at whatever I did, and I had to take responsibility. It had nothing to do with gender. And I couldn't understand that when I grew up and I met other people, I found that my identity was not gender first. My identity was my competence.
Oh, I think that there is some problem with the connection again, but I don't know.
Or Eduard is.
No, yeah,
Is it mine?
it was. I think so. You were saying that gender was never an issue in your family.
Never an issue. Absolutely. So it was competency. You just had to figure out that you have skills. You are getting better in your skills. You have to understand something better. That's it. We all were given motorbikes, to go to our college, etc. So I love liberating my identity from gender. I love the fact that my identity starts with my competency and what I do. And so, yes, of course, it's a huge blessing that I can do that. But I find that when I do it at school at Riverside and get my children to believe that their competency is taking them forward and not their gender first, my girls are powerful, and my boys are just amazing, kind folks. So I think if we can remove gender, age, and demographics from of the way we look at our children and the world, it just gives you a lot more freedom. It frees you a little bit more. So I would advocate that a lot.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more for the people that are not familiar with it on the logic of design for change? Why are you using it as a great learning tool? And probably also the like the logic. I think that in Spain there is also a design for change a program. So for people that is not familiar with design for change, why is this relevant in the
How
learning
can people
approach?
not know?
What
are you saying? People don't know design for change?
Maybe few of them.
Oh, okay. For those few, we will talk. Well, Design for Change was born out of the 5 E's at Riverside when we were looking at how the children were 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 were, were, were unleashing their agency. We said, wow, this cannot be only for Riverside. It has to go to the world. So in a way, the framework of feel, imagine, do, share is a kind of a simplification of empathy, ethics, excellence, and elevation. So feel, imagine, do, share became like the superhero formula, so that it is a right of every child anywhere in the world. If they just use these 4 steps, they can not only make change happen, but the change will happen for the greater good. It'll happen inside and outside. So this is really what I launched in 2009. Today, of course, it is in over 60 countries, and we have a super partner in Spain called Miguel Luengo. He and his team are just amazing. They've in fact become a partner since 2011, and they've already reached, I think, 400 schools, 30,000 children. They've got more than like 700 great stories of change. So I think for us, it's a belief system. It's that superpower of I can. And I can do what? I can make the world a better place. I can make my world a better place. So when children start believing that when they're young, when they graduate, I think they graduate with more optimism that when they encounter challenge or they encounter uncertainty, if they just start with empathy, I think it will give them the power and the confidence for change. So that's really what Design for Change is.
That is great, and also it links this idea that you are not alone in the world. So education is not just making you grow as an individual, but also as a part of a community. And I think that this is also the approach that you use when launching the Approach initiative. No? This idea of cities taking care of children, for kids as future citizens taking care of cities, and creating cities a child-friendly environments. Could you tell us a little bit about this initiative that you might learn a lot about?
Oh, that was such a fun initiative. That was in 2007. So I'm talking about like 13 years ago. A lot of my children, that was my first batch, they were 12-year-old, and they were talking to me about play. They said when they go back home, they don't go out into the streets to play because it's not safe. And I said, what are you saying? Because I remember always growing up, playing on the streets of my city. And they said, no, our parents say this is not safe. You must stay at home. And that's why we have more television channels than parks in our cities. So the children said, ma'am, this is not right. Let's go and make our city safe. So what does that mean? We had to go to the police. We had to go to the municipality. We had to go to the citizens. And it was amazing. So the children are sitting in front of the police commissioner and saying, "Sir, please give us the street." And they were asking for the busiest street of Ahmedabad. "Sir, please close down the traffic. We want to make the street into a playground for children." And the police commissioner is saying, "No, no, no. Please go to the park." They're saying, "No, sir, we want the street." "Go to the park." "No, sir, we want the street." "Sir, give us the street." And I think they were telling the police commissioner that, "Sir, you have to look after us. We are your youngest citizens. And one day we're going to become citizens who will look after the city." And I think that logic, that if a city cares for its child, that child will then care for the city. And that was amazing. So we closed down the busiest street and it became a playground for all children. And that again, you talked about inclusion, that we don't walk this earth alone. We walk it with each other. And if we make life a little more just, a little bit more beautiful for each other, the journey just becomes that much more easy. So that's how approach started. Then the parks, we took the parks, we took the street, we took the cinema halls. It was crazy. We told the city, "Open up your hearts and your doors for our children." So that's how approach started.
I think that many of the people that might be listening to you now, many of them might be educators and could wonder how to develop all of this. Because many times the frustration of people in education that want to create something new, it's just that they feel that they don't have the tool or the proper training. They don't know how to break the logic of the teacher explaining, the kids taking notes and then reproducing, etc. And maybe it's in that way that you also thought that would be interesting to create this Riverside Learning Center as a training hub. Could you tell us something about that?
Yeah. Well, there are two things. One is, if anybody, I keep telling people that, you just start small and take it slowly. I think for me, that lesson was amazing for me. But you're right. I think a lot of people were coming to Riverside and saying, "We love what you're doing. How can we do this?" So coming from a design background, I think the idea to codify practice allows it to be replicated. So codification became a real practice at Riverside. So whatever we knew worked, we put it into a simple codification of a process. And so today, when schools come to us, or when governments, we're working with a couple of governments, we're working with schools, we're working across the world now, people are able to take the codification process because they can now see it and then they can replicate it. So I think that for me was very important, because in a way it's a moral responsibility to share in education, specifically if you know something is working. You can't just keep it to yourself and say, "No, no, no, this is my USP. That other school should not have it." No, if it works for children, it should work for all children. So Riverside Learning Center became a way to help other schools build a more humane culture.
I've been introducing some of the questions that participants on the session are being asked, but I'm going to be more specific using some of them. Deepika Goyal is asking, is saying that educators are quite wired to think in a structural way, that they feel uncomfortable to keep even the learning flexible. And she's asking, what would your advice be for them besides attending Riverside Learning Center?
Yes, I think you're right. I would just start by saying, start small, but start with listening to children rather than instructing. So I have learned that is a powerful sort of way to connect to children who then start believing that they want to learn. So if you can just do a quick hack of walking into the class and starting by saying, "Okay, what do we want to do today?" I love using the word "we" rather than "you," so it becomes a much more collaborative space. How do we want to do today? How would we like to look at today? So just by virtue of language, things start changing as well. So yes, it is. It's it's not a clean and simple way. Learning is always messy. It is complicated, and it needs patience. So I would recommend continue to keep having your sense of humor. Very important in education. We don't laugh enough. There's no joy. We walk into school and we are very serious, and there's no joy. So I keep thinking that if we have a little bit of joy, children would want to learn with you. So I would say those are little hacks you can use.
No, that's nice because Anna from Italy was asking what tool could be used to help to change teachers' mindset. And maybe it's this change of approach, no? Not being there as the duty, serious duty of performing, but to try to practice this empathy and then create the joy both for the learner and for the teacher as also learner.
And I will also say, I mean, two things. If you come to Riverside, Eduard, you'll find that there is no staff room, there is no principal's cabin. Under the tree could be my office. Under the in the open space or in the playground could be a teacher's sort of a space. I find that the more barriers you put between you and your child, the more mental barriers start happening for the child as well. So if you are a principal of a school or whatever, I will say quick hack is just just take your desk and put it out into corridors and stay one day outside and just see the magic that will happen. For a teacher, I would recommend shadow a child. Just walk quietly and shadow an entire day for a child, and then you'll realize, my God, if they're just sitting quiet for an entire day, and ask yourself, how did you feel? So that's that empathy exercise we do. We do a lot of empathy exercises to say, can I experience what a child is experiencing for the full day? And then you'll realize, oh my God, they didn't speak at all. They kept hearing the word, no, keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet. And you say, oh my God, how will we learn? So suddenly it'll give you a way to shift the way to think.
Next week we are gonna have. This is fantastic, and I'm just thinking. I'm not a teacher myself, and I practiced this once being in school and realizing that a great way to feel the logic of the school is just doing what you are saying, like looking at a kid and imagining that you are the kid, and suddenly everything changes. Everything. Many of the approaches that theoretically could work change it when you imagine yourself being there for 4, 5, 6 hours, right?
Yeah. And if you are just sitting all that time and not speaking and not moving and being told to keep quiet, it suddenly shifts the way you understand what children are seeing. So you see it from their lens, and that's a beautiful way to reimagine and reposition that relationship you have with yourself, with your child, with the school, with learning. It's a very powerful exercise.
There is another question Fanny Passport asked about the idea of future or success. No, next week we are gonna have in the session Ann Cook, amazing teacher from New York that promoted the Standard Performance Consortium, breaking the logic of assessment, going to a more meaningful learning. And she said, we are obsessed that the goal of education must be sending kids to university, and you have big amount of unprivileged kids, and that because we send them through a wrong path, we are just breaking their opportunities. Besides that, they are working with kids from underprivileged communities. They are being very successful sending them to university after having meaningful learning experiences. And Fanny is asking precisely, what is the experience of students going to college or somewhere after Riverside? What's the diversity of pathways of students in these 20 years of Riverside?
Well, I'm very glad to say that the children who graduate are not all managers and not all engineers. And in India, we are obsessed with, either engineering or medicine or managing. So I love the fact that our children are exploring. I would not, I would say that we're not always 100% successful in helping children find the courage to take their passion into a profession, right? It takes that courage, right? Because so much of it is also built from maybe fear from home or emotional sort of insecurity. So I would like to say around 70% of our children get that courage and confidence to take their passion into and make it into a profession. So, and take gap years if necessary. A couple of them have not gone to college at all and realize that we don't have to do that. So you're right in saying that children are not, they don't have that linear approach to their lives has been questioned. Do I have to go to college? Do I have to get married? Do I have to get a child? Right? So we're questioning that linear approach, and I think we can just get better and better and give that children opportunity. But we've got the myriad. We've got actors and pilots, and I'm certain one or two are going to go to jail also. But we've got all of them. We've got a lovely range of children who are taking either the pure maths and sciences and acting and becoming a pilot and sports medicine. So what's lovely is that over the years, because they get this exposure and they get this wide variety of opportunities, each one decides, oh, I love film, or I love theater, or I love that, and they, and we work with the parents as well over the years to get the parents to be confident that this is a valuable life journey. And so the word hobby, that we don't use. Otherwise, a lot of children say, oh, I love dancing. Oh, but that's a hobby. So hobby is not a word that will walk into our lives, So I wish I could say 100% of our children find that, but I think we do it with some batch, some of the grades 80%, some, but that's nice purpose to do.
There is another question taking the same topic. Gauri Hardikar said that really appreciate your work and say this is what education needs to be about. But he's asking whether you could tell something about your assessment frameworks, how to assess this whole development of the kids, the psychosocial competencies, the citizen ones. How do you organize the assessment?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I have to say that all schools, unfortunately or fortunately in India, or I think in most parts, eventually we have to sit for the exit exam, right? Eventually there is an examination that they would sit for. But over the years, we have built a lovely, I think there are two things we have to understand. How does a child know that the child grows? And how does the child show that the child grows? So there are two things I would like to say. So if I was a student, I would say, how do I know I grow? And how do I show I grow? So if you look at these two words, the knowing and the showing, we've built a lovely multiple data points for the child and for the adult, for the parent, etc., and the peers to know and show growth. So it's portfolios that they do, it's public performances that they do, it's public scrutiny, it is evidence files, there are jury systems, there are personal projects. So over the years, we don't have, of course, examinations till the grade 8, which we have to sit for. So the child builds a beautiful plural understanding of themselves. So it is not a linear one mark or one grade. So there's a plurality by saying, oh, I'm terrific as a hairdresser, or I'm great with people, or I work better alone. So they have multiple data points that help them know they grow and show that they grow. So we have built a nice range of ways in which that can happen.
One question talks about leadership, and it comes to my mind many things, right? what we are experiencing in world politics today, the chaos in the American in the North American elections, but also everything around climate change, global warming, identity conflicts, the shameful situation with Syrian refugees that we are having here in Europe, totally unable to deal with that. And all this gigantic, today we had news about more people coming from Africa, dying in the Mediterranean, trying to reach Europe. And all of this asks for the concept of leadership for change, right? And Sandia Bider is asking, how could we explain that leadership is not just communications or public speaking skills, but articulating people to be able to care for the others, to care for the environment, and become themselves change agents. And I think that this is in the core of the design for change concept. I don't know if I've been clear with what Sandy is saying.
Yeah. Well, I'm only going to kind of talk about my inspiration in leadership is, of course, Mahatma Gandhi. And I think a lot of it, he talked about moral authority over positional authority. I don't think leadership is about a title or a name tag on your door or a position. I think if you ask yourself, if I remove that position, am I still worthy of leading? I think then that's a question to kind of frame your role. So I think moral authority about living and being the action. So I keep saying that there, like, I know he says it enough that be the change you wish to see, but it's the idea of moral leadership, the idea that that can I be a role model? Can I live and be what I am saying, rather than say and not be? So I think very few we don't teach that. We teach children to. She's right. I mean, whoever asked the question, we teach children, or we tell children that if they do public speaking or they are articulate, that's leadership qualities. It isn't. It absolutely isn't. I mean, like if you just look at Gandhi, Gandhi was never a king. He was not the general of armies. He was not a president or corporate leader, and yet he was able to build an entire nation's, take an entire nation to an idea of freedom only because of his moral authority. His life was his story. So I think we need role models, and I find that sometimes, and if we don't have role models, you are who you've been waiting for. You have to act it out and be it. So it's an interesting question, and I think I like looking at people who have lived a life that is worth even imitating. Sometimes it's worth imitating or being inspired. Yeah, so I think it's about moral authority is all I can say. I mean, over positional authority. I would say that's my understanding of leadership.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And let me just go to the last question. It's we are just reaching,
it's
and you're I mean, you are inspirational, and there is an endless list of questions of people like, oh my God, yeah, you are accustomed to that. The last question is related to how to keep this learning happen. So how do you build the capacity of kids to become these curious people, experimenting people, caring people that are able to develop these learning practices all of their life?
Well, I think you have to I don't think there is a kind of a like you say, oh, is it going to happen? I mean, I don't think it is like it's as clear as that. And all we can do, and in education, as teachers, as parents, as adults, as citizens, is to provide inspiration and is to provide opportunities and a space and place for children to to be curious, to act on it, to take the time for it. If we are constantly telling children there is no time and that is later, that's also a habit of mind. So I think I keep coming back to those first 2 years of our children's life on the planet. In those first two years, every parent is telling the child, oh, come, speak, walk, come. You're telling the child, yes, you can, right? That's the whole point. And then for 15 years, we say, now, no, not now, later. So I think if we can just continue to believe in the inherent capacity of our children and provide opportunities for them to keep living that out and give time, it's more likely that they will become these learners and these citizens of the world that will care and be kind and be humane. It's not going to happen by chance. I mean, it's not going to just be something that we are wishing and hoping. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is not your strategy. You have to actually do the work. You can't wake up one morning and say, "Oh, everything is fine." It needs the work. Yeah.
Kiran, thank you very much. You bring the joy with you. You are so inspiring. I need to go there and maybe spend a year with you and
Yes.
finally learn something properly.
No,
Thank you very much
we'll
for
all
the
learn
effort.
together.
And I hope that we could meet again very soon. And
I hope so.
and thank you for being
Muchas
so.
gracias.
Thank you for being so inspirational for so many people. Thank you very much. And
Thanks,
I think that.
everybody. Good night.
And I think that
thank
we
you
are.
for.
Yes, go.
No.
You were saying the thank you, and I was cutting you.
I was just saying thank you. And if my Miguel is listening, or my DFC Spain, or my Monica is listening, a big hello to everybody in Spain. I have so many good memories of Spain. I've come so often. Of course, we have also met. I really wish we will have time to meet in 3 dimension again. I'm done with Zoom and 2 dimension, people. I need to hug people now.
We are all done. We are all done. Thank you very much,
Bye.
Kiran.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
I think that we are going back to Sylvia. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduard, and thank you, Kiran. It is always such a pleasure to listen to you and to get inspired by your words and your smiles. And thank you also for staying up so late, because actually now in India is almost midnight. So thanks a lot for make this effort to stay with us tonight. And thank you also to all the public who sent many questions. Next appointment with the future of education is going to be next Thursday, 19th of November, and we will meet Anne Cook, another unconventional leader who, as Kiran, does not like tests and actually managed to liberate 38 schools of the states of New York from exams. How did she do that? See you all next week to fix the future.